Welcome to the most interesting AITA story of this week, where an attention-seeker boyfriend rants for hours and finally asks his girlfriend for a breakup. The cool girlfriend said, "Okay," and now her boyfriend is mad. Let's dive to see what happened. The story is from pass-house-2508. AITA for being disgusted and just saying okay when my fiance broke up with me. I, 28F, had been with my fiance, Alex 34, since 2020. We met at a friend's party, hit it off, and had been together ever since. He finished his doctorate in economics just last year. Since then, he has been working at the uni. I have my master's in media sciences and decided to start working instead of going for a PhD. Okay, so the problem is that Alex broke up with me last Monday. It was literally so surreal and honestly just weird. For the past few months, he'd been acting strange. He was making demands and then dropping them immediately. A few examples. He told me we were going to paint our walls back from dark green to white. When I asked why, he just said, "For f***'s sake, forget it," and never brought it up again, even when I asked. Another time, he came home and got mad because I was sitting on the couch with my head covered in a blanket. I had cramps. He was upset because I was just sitting there watching Netflix. Mind you, the house was spotless. When I tried to talk about it, he said, "Forget it. It's not a big deal." This kind of thing became common. Every time I tried to communicate, tried to figure out what was going on, whether it was something I did, or maybe he was just stressed at work, he would just say everything was fine. But he was clearly seething with rage. I didn't even have to do anything. He would find something to complain about. The apartment, clothes, me, work, etc. So, I gave him space, which apparently was also wrong. I told him I was going to help my parents with repairs for a few days. And somehow that was also wrong because he wanted to renovate the apartment too. Then, on Monday, I got a text saying we needed to talk. I knew what was coming, and after the last few months, I had made peace with it. When I came home, he was sitting on the couch. He didn't even wait for me to take off my jacket before saying, "I want to break up." Then the verbal diarrhea started. He told me he resented me. First, because I didn't pursue my academic career further, even though I was capable, and he didn't want to upset me at the time. Then, when I started making more money, since he didn't make much as a PhD student, he felt like I should have the last word financially, and he hated it. Mind you, I never said anything like, "It's my money, so I have the final say." That's a rule he imposed on himself, and he hated it. He said he hated our paint scheme, the couch, and even our crock pot. Then, he told me he had rejected a better PhD program to stay here because I had already started my job by the time he got the acceptance letters. Only, he never told me he had even applied overseas. He said a few months ago, he checked in with a friend who's in that program, saw how they were thriving, and decided I ruined his life. He said I had too much control over his life, and that he hated the idea that I could just decide not to pay for things and f*** him over. I honestly don't even know what that means. He also said he hated that all his friends loved me and didn't let him vent about me. Then he said again, "I'm done." I was floored. I had already made peace with the idea that we were ending, and it hurt, but after that rant, I was just disgusted. I looked at him, probably with a disgusted expression, and said, "Okay." He lost it. He said this is exactly what he meant, that it was horrible. We had been together for 4 years, and all I had to say was okay to our breakup? I just asked if he wanted to stay here while he figured out where to go. He said, "Typical, of course you're holding the apartment over me," and started ranting again, so I just left. I told my parents, and they're also confused. My dad suggested I reach out to our landlord and explain the situation to see what options I have. I can keep paying the rent no problem myself. He covered the utilities and some subscriptions. Just to reiterate, I never had a problem with this. I saw that he was chasing his dream, and that was more important to me than a 50-50 financial split. I make good money and am happy at my job. I never saw it as slaving away. I always had the mentality that my money was our money because we were building a life together. Of course, I had my own savings and fun money, but I honestly never cared. As long as I felt he was working towards something and wasn't taking advantage of me, I was fine with it. More than fine. Alex is still mad. He's going between texting me like a robot about the logistics of the split to being a seething asshole complaining about everything. I'm not even hurt anymore. I just feel nauseated by him at this point. I don't know. Should I have reacted differently? Edit. Thank you for all your opinions. It was nice to get this off my chest, lol. Just to clarify though, I don't feel like a victim. I feel like something happened, and my relationship just turned bad. He behaved like an asshole, but that is the extent of it. Very clearly, something is going on, but he doesn't want me to be part of whatever it is, and I have to respect that. Now I just have to detangle myself legally from him, and after that, I'll just be left alone with my ugly green wall color. I think I might also adopt a cat, as my ex was really allergic. OP is not an a-hole, and she handled the breakup with killer maturity. Her boyfriend is being unreasonable by placing all the blame on OP without reason. In fact, he is a narcissistic and mentally ill person who doesn't respect individual freedom. He just wants to control OP, which now seems impossible to him, especially after she started earning a lot more than him. That's why he is behaving this way. So, OP's boyfriend is the a-hole here, and I would rate him 2.5 out of 5 on the a-hole scale, while OP gets nothing. Let's now jump onto the next story from Rude-Armadillo-5210. AITA for kicking my mill out of my car and calling her evil, instead of taking her to see my grieving wife. 31M here. The last few days have been a nightmare to say the least. My wife Stephanie had a stillbirth about a week ago, and we lost our first child, a baby boy. Stephanie isn't well at all. The doctors have told her time and time again that it wasn't her fault, but she feels guilty and responsible. She cries all the time and isn't herself at all. I'm worried sick about her, and just want her to feel better as soon as possible. My parents actually live close by, and my mom has been a huge help. My mom has tried to comfort Stephanie and assure her it wasn't her fault, which I really appreciate. Stephanie's mom lives on the other side of the country, and their relationship has always confused me. Stephanie's mom loves her, but she verbally lashes out and can be downright vicious. For example, my MIL told Stephanie in her early 20s that no respectable guy was ever going to marry her because of all the men she slept with. She'd only been with 2 guys before we met LMAO. She also called Stephanie used goods and easy when we first moved in together because she didn't approve of her daughter living with a man outside of wedlock. When Stephanie got pregnant, her mom told her she should quit her job, she's an attorney, so she can be there for our child. Stephanie planned on going back to work, and her mom said she's going to be a horrible mother. These are only a few of the comments she's made over the years, but I'm sure you get the picture. Some other context is that my MIL has 4 kids, and Stephanie is the only one on decent terms with her. I think Stephanie feels obligated to be there for her mom and take care of her because she's very loyal. I've told Stephanie I don't like the way her mother treats her, and she says it's just how she is, and that she accepts it. She says the comments don't bother her because she knows her mom is crazy, but she's always stressed before her mom comes to town and is always happy when she leaves. My MIL offered to fly out to visit Stephanie and help support her after the stillbirth. I thought it sounded like a terrible idea, but Stephanie said she wanted to see her mother. I picked my MIL up from the airport this morning when she landed. As soon as she got in the car, my MIL said she knew this was going to happen. I asked what she meant, and she said she told Stephanie that she shouldn't be on her feet all day when she's so pregnant. I started explaining that the doctors said it wasn't something she did wrong, and my MIL said it was the stress of her job and her being in court all day. She said that next time I get her pregnant, I need to be a man and persuade her to stay home and rest. She said I was greedy and cared more about having 2 incomes than my children having their mother at home. She also said I wasn't a real man and failed to protect my wife and child. I typically am good at keeping my emotions in check, but I lost it. I pulled the car over and told my MIL to get out of the car. I also called her evil and said she's no longer welcome in my home because of how she treats my wife. I explained that Stephanie has been through hell, is vulnerable right now, and doesn't need anything other than unconditional love and support. My ML says she loves Stephanie, which is why she wants to make sure she learns from her mistakes and never goes through this again. I told my ML to get out again, and she called me useless and got out of my car. When I got home, I told Stephanie that her mother said some cruel things, and I lost my temper and kicked her out of the car. Stephanie asked what she said, and I purposefully left out the comments that suggested the stillbirth was her fault. I didn't want my wife to hear those comments, so I focused on the things she said about me, not being greedy and failing to protect her. The funny thing is, that Stephanie doesn't get angry at her mom for saying horrible things to her, but she doesn't tolerate any negative comments towards me. She's told her mother in the past that if she continued to insult me, she can't have a relationship with her. Stephanie apologized for her mom's behavior and acknowledged that her mom shouldn't have said those things. She says she understands why I lost my temper, but I can tell she's stressed and disappointed her mom isn't there to support her. She's tried calling her mom to see where she is, but both of us have been blocked. This is a common tactic for her. I got a call from my mom saying that my MIL is now at her and my dad's house. She said that my MIL won't tell her what happened, but that she's very upset that she can't be there for Stephanie. My mom basically said she doesn't care what happened, and the right thing to do is for me to go over and make things right. She says that Stephanie needs her mother, and I should fix things with my MIL for her sake. She also said that Stephanie has been through enough without me and her mother fighting. My mom thinks my MIL is nuts, but she doesn't know about all the horrible things she's said to my wife over the years. I'm going to go over tomorrow morning, but to be honest, I don't want the woman in my house or around my wife. I want to protect Stephanie, and I think keeping her mom away may be the best way to do that. AITA? OP is not an a-hole for standing up for his grieving wife. OP's mother-in-law is a very selfish and toxic lady who blames her daughter for the stillbirth. It is unfortunate that OP's wife still wants her mom's support, despite the fact that her cruel behavior makes her presence more harmful than helpful. OP is certainly not an a-hole, and I would rate him 0 out of 5 on the a-hole scale. As for his mother-in-law, she is a cruel a-hole, and I would rate her 2.5 out of 5 on the a-hole scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Calm-Distribution 369. AITA, for telling my stepdaughter that if she stays home from school, she needs to go to her mother's? This makes me sound like a witch, I realize that. And maybe this is selfish, who knows? Anyways, I have been with my husband for 4 years, and we have 7 kids combined. We both came into the relationship with 3 kids each, and we now have a 5-month-old together. They all live with us full-time and go to their respective other parents' homes every second weekend. Here's the issue. For the past 3 weeks, there's been a rotating sickness in our home, and I am the one taking care of everyone else while sick as a dog myself. I'm exhausted, barely running on 4 hours of sleep a night between the baby breastfeeding and one or more of the kids getting up in the middle of the night for water, Tylenol, or having coughing fits. At least 3 days a week for the past 2 weeks, 1 or 2 of the kids have been staying home battling this illness. And again, I'm the one managing it despite being sick and exhausted myself. My husband works from 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. most nights, truck driver. The only one that this sickness has not touched is my 12-year-old stepdaughter, Hannah. She never gets sick, her immune system is a tank. But she was getting irritated because she's the only one who hasn't been able to skip school. I told her she's not skipping school for no reason, and the other kids have been sick. It's not like they are playing hooky for shits and giggles. Either way, she asked her dad the night before last if she could stay home the next day because her mouth hurts. She has a tiny canker sore. He said yes. I was already pissed off because it wasn't discussed with me, and it's me having to deal with it. And I'm just frustrated at this point, because I want to take a nap with the baby, catch up on my own sleep, and take care of myself, but can't, because everyone's rotating staying home. Anyways, she stays home. I get everyone on the bus, time ranging from 6:10 to 8:30, and go back indoors, and Hannah is immediately up my asking me what I'm cooking her for breakfast. I tell her to have cereal. She whines, doesn't want cereal. She wants a full breakfast, eggs, toast, hash browns, sausage, and pancakes. I say no. She gets pissed and storms off to her room and slams the door. I go get the baby back down to sleep. I don't know. From 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. she came into the nursery 9 times, waking up the baby, being loud, pushing my arm, her way of being playful, asking me to bring her shopping for her upcoming dance, asking me to bring her to the mall so she can spend her money, asking me to go watch her cook because she's starving. She did eat breakfast, but she bored eats. ADHD and won't touch the stove unless I'm right there because she's scared. By 3 p.m., when I had to get the kids off the bus, I was fuming. The baby was screaming bloody because Hannah hadn't let the baby sleep more than 30 minutes all day, between her whining, being loud, and slamming her bedroom door after I had told her not to yet another let's go shopping request. Anyways, by the time my husband came home, I was done. I have never been so infuriated, honestly. So, when she comes in later that night and asks her dad if she can stay home again because her mouth hurts so bad, and he said yes, I snapped and said, "Okay, better call your mother and go there then." My husband asked why we would do that, and I gave him the rundown. The other kids are respectful and let the baby sleep. Hannah made sure to keep the baby awake because she wanted to go shopping and thought that since the baby was awake anyways, that I would just bring her. I'm not watching a fake sick kid who stays home from school again and keeps the baby up all day long again. She can go to her mom's. Anyways, she told her dad that I clearly hate her, and now my husband has been giving me the 5th degree for making his daughter feel like an outcast. OP is not an AH, and her suggestion to Hannah was practical because managing 7 kids, a newborn, and making elaborate breakfasts is not a piece of cake. Here, OP's stepdaughter's behavior is not justifiable, whether he doesn't understand or doesn't want to understand. Whatever the case, OP is not an AH here, and I would give her 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. It is the responsibility of OP's husband to communicate things clearly when he has such a large family. And here is one suggestion for OP's husband. Dude, 7 children are more than enough. Just stop it. Now is the time to move on to the next story from Villainous Vogue. AITA, for telling my girlfriend that her tradewife ambitions are disrespectful to me and our relationship. My girlfriend and I have been dating for over 2 years. When we met, she was just starting college slightly late, and I had just graduated with my undergrad. She's been great, wonderful company in my life, and I appreciate the time we spend together. I had income, and she didn't. I also had a car, and she didn't. I have had no problems picking her up to see her, and I have not had any problem essentially paying for everything over the course of our entire relationship. I get her gifts, often for no reason, not because I expect anything but because I love her, and it makes me happy to see her happy. A few weeks ago, she finally got a car due to her uncle and parents. I was excited and mentioned how great it'll be for her to start driving to my place, instead of me going back and forth wasting gas. But she then mentioned no, that I would still be doing all the driving because she doesn't want to waste miles. I told her I felt that was inconsiderate, and she practically told me I will be fine because I make good income to replace my own car. This honestly really turned me off, but I brushed it off and have since stopped bringing it up. Another topic propped up when she sent me a TikTok with one of those trade wives, and I mentioned while the video was beautiful, these videos kind of lie to a bunch of young women advertising a lifestyle that is unrealistic for people to achieve. She responded to me saying, "Women are just marrying the wrong men." Honestly, this made me livid. She then mentioned that if I'm not willing to pay all of her bills and allow her to not work, even without kids, then she is scared for our future. Now, I have always been an advocate for SAHPs. I think a homemaker is a beautiful task, but I don't think a lazy house mistress is attractive in the slightest. She has always loved being spoiled and treated. I enjoy doing this, and have done it for 2 years. Even then, she still cited me as one of those 50-50ths people, even though I have quite literally been carrying our relationship from the jump effort-wise, and financially. When I try and communicate our vision for the future, and all she has to say back to me, "A woman should never pay anything for a man," I honestly hurt the hell out of me, because I give to her out of love and sheer passion of making this relationship work as it needs to at the moment, and instantly made me feel like she doesn't truly love me back at all, but rather views me, and all men, as a vessel for a rich trophy wife lifestyle, instead of someone she truly wants to see happy and succeed. I haven't been able to have a normal conversation with her since, especially since I was the one that had to apologize at the end of the conversation, despite her being totally unrealistic with her expectations, and on top of that, she doesn't even realize how much her words offended me after she explicitly told me a rich guy who can pay for everything is always the better option. I also know for a fact that her mother reinforces this mentality to her whenever we argue, that she could find someone richer and better rather than just working it out with me and compromising. She got especially mad at me when I said I may never achieve that level of fortune. Even then, why would I waste years of hard work so you can be lazy, especially in this economy? I have a very successful family business and a degree in a field in which I work part-time. But I am still no moneybags despite having it better than most. I still have things to pay for and things I want to achieve before I can realistically start trying to have a trophy wife. Even then, why does she expect my love to be so shallow? I want a partner, not a child to take care of. I don't want a partner that views relationships as some superficial class exchange. I told her just because I may need her help in the future doesn't mean she won't have my full support. I have always supported her. We have 2 happy years together to cite. But anytime I communicate this with her, she doesn't want to work it out. She wants me to be delusional with her. I feel like I ended up with the female version of Andrew Tate out of the blue. The shit she spews is incredibly misogynistic. Women are not built to be working. Feminism ruined our way of life. I can't find out a way to show her how ridiculous she sounds when she expects these types of things out of me. And for me, a very far left-leaning guy, to adapt to suddenly believing a woman's worth is tied behind the man she is. It's so gross. She knows who I am, how much I make, and what I am capable of. Yet she is practically telling me in my face that none of it matters until things are as she states. I find it very discouraging that I would sacrifice so much for her over 2 years, only for her to say she won't in any type of way sacrifice for me, simply because women don't do that. That's how they get screwed over. So, AITA for challenging this mentality? Update. I really appreciate the comments. To answer questions I saw pop up often. She is a little over 2 years into nursing school. In the business my family runs, she can instantly have a good-paying job through us. She doesn't want to do this. In fact, she often tells me she's only in school to get it out of the way. She has no current passion for going through with it. I don't even know how her progress is really going, as she doesn't talk about her studies often. Understandable. Whenever we speak about careers, cue the house girlfriend talk. She had told me once she will consider part-time. It took a very long discussion for us to get there, and says the money will be hers, and I will still pay 100% bills and outings. In terms of what she provides, not very much, but I do not expect that. I help run a business and work part-time in a completely different field remotely, and she is in school. We only have time to see one another on the weekends, usually me picking her up, taking her on dates. We both invite one another to friend outings, family outings, etc. We do not live with one another. I am paying the mortgage on a duplex alongside my brother. No, she is not cooking and cleaning for me. I pay for the food, and more so view her as a special guest when she's around. And I'm 99% sure we are both content with our life as is. Whenever we talk about moving in with one another, we clash on this very topic, as it can be kind of dumb to have someone move in with no reasonable way to financially contribute. We aren't planning kids for another 5 to 10 years. People are stating that I should tell her to find a man that suits her needs. I did point to ask her, why not just leave me and find a rich man? She did not take that well, and insinuated I am painting her as a bad person. She left the conversation saying that it was an attempt to break up, even though it was just me trying to reasonably communicate. For those wondering if I'm in it because she is pretty enough to get away with that? No, she is gorgeous and incredibly fashionable, inspiring me in many ways. Fashion is one thing we bond over heavily, and we both equally care about our physical appearance. But in no way am I shallow enough to solely date her because she is physically attractive. No doubt she has her options, but honestly, I find it ridiculous that a healthy, happy relationship only needs a pretty face and a large wallet. Her opinion on that, I'd say ambiguous, because just as any other woman, she takes pride in beauty. I will speak with her on the phone later tonight about this topic, and again, and how it makes me feel, and update again if anyone is interested. Again, thanks for the responses. OP is not an AH for being frustrated with his girlfriend's unrealistic expectations. She is living in a world of dreams. OP's girlfriend's refusal to compromise, dismissiveness towards her boyfriend's future goals, and expectation for him to continuously provide for her are beyond understanding. Every action of OP is justifiable, and none of OP's girlfriends. So, OP is not an AH, and I would rate him 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. On the other hand, OP's girlfriend is a big AH and deserves at least 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from Conmen. AITA for telling my girlfriend that she should go back to work if she doesn't want to take care of our baby. My fiancé, 24F, and I, 28M, welcomed a baby 5 months ago. My work offers 4 months of paid parental leave, and I added another month of PTO on top of it, giving me 5 months to bond with the baby and help as much as I could. We also decided that she would stay home for a year and a half since we don't want to send the baby to daycare at such a young age. So for the time being, I'm paying for everything entirely, which is fine as I make more than enough. During the last 5 months, I have been completely invested in the baby. She is not a night person, so at night I pretty much took care of him. She goes to bed around 9 p.m. and I take care of him from that time until 5 a.m. This doesn't mean I stay up until 5, just that if he wakes up and needs something, I take care of it. At 5 a.m., she takes over the responsibility. By 8, 9 a.m., I would again take over from her so she can sleep a little bit more. She loves her sleep. We did this for the whole 5 months I was off. During the day, we also shared the responsibility when I was off. I changed him, bathed him, and fed him as much as she did. At the same time, I made dinner every night, washed the dishes, and even cleaned the house sometimes. She hates doing any of that stuff. We used to have a cleaning lady, but I stopped paying for it since my bills are much higher now. I was okay with doing most of the work since I figured she just gave birth after a long pregnancy, and it was my turn to put in some work. However, now I am back at work, but I feel like she still expects me to do everything. I work from home, so it doesn't feel like I have gone back to work, and she expects the same level of involvement I had. We agreed that I would take care of the baby until 3 p.m. now, instead of 5, which is very late for me since I have to be up and running by 9. She still expects me to cook lunch and dinner, do the dishes. What bothers me the most is that she also expects me to take care of the baby during the day as much as she does. She will just come into my office and hand me the baby, saying it's my turn. Because I spend a lot of time at night with the baby, I think the baby prefers me to hold him when he's sleepy, so she will just bring him to me when he's fussy and wanting to sleep. This is making it hard for me to concentrate. I tried telling her that I can't do everything I was doing before going back to work, but her argument is that I can't expect her to deal with him by herself for 8 hours straight. Mind you, that's the reason she's staying home in the first place. So I told her that if she doesn't want to take care of him during the day, then she should go back to work, and we can send the baby to daycare. I can't do all of it at once, making the money, and at the same time cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the baby. Now she is telling lies to her mom that I am not helping her enough with the baby. Am I the asshole? OP is not an AH, and he gone above and beyond in the last 5 months to help her fiancé take care of the child. Rather's OP's wife is being an AH for her unrealistic expectations. She is being fainéant, and she is an AH here, and I would rate her 2 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets 0. The last story for this video, sis from Street-Load, 8151. AITA, for telling my daughter, I know what's best for my granddaughter. I, 55F, have been raising my daughter Sarah's, 34F child for the past 16 years. Emma, 16F, is an amazing young woman who has made me incredibly proud. For some background info, Sarah got pregnant at the beginning of her freshman year of college at age 18. She decided to keep the baby. She was still living at home, so of course, I helped her. My daughter wasn't really a present mother. She, despite my urging her to take time off, went back to school a week after giving birth and went back to work a week after that. She pumped so I could bottle and formula feed Emma immediately after birth. Sarah wouldn't get up in the night to take care of Emma because she needed her sleep, so I did all the night feedings and changings. Emma was left home with me while Sarah went to school and work and attended everything I needed to attend. Sarah would come home and care for Emma for an hour or two, then go to bed. When Emma was 2, Sarah and her boyfriend got a small apartment closer to campus, and I assumed that my time raising Emma was over. Sarah was putting Emma in daycare for about 3 weeks before she asked to just leave Emma with me during the weekdays and take her on the weekends. So until Emma was 6, she spent Monday through Thursday with me and spent the weekends with Sarah and her dad, who was in and out of the picture. When Emma was 6, Sarah moved back into my house and took a slightly more present role, but it was obvious she didn't know what she was doing. She didn't care to follow the routine Emma and I had set years before, and couldn't understand why Emma was struggling. She knew very little about Emma's likes and dislikes, and didn't have much knowledge about raising children to begin with. Within a few months, she stopped making nearly as much of an effort, and I took back over as the main caretaker of Emma. When Emma was 8, Sarah moved back out with a new boyfriend, this time leaving Emma with me entirely and only coming to get her on the weekends. She took a job that worked weekends and nights, and for 5 years, Emma lived with me full-time, only spending nights with her mom in the form of sleepovers and an occasional weekend. When Emma was 13, my daughter got a job with a 9-to-5 schedule and started picking her up after sports and activities to spend the evening and having Emma come over on weekends. A year ago, my daughter moved into a house that is in the neighborhood of a very prestigious private school for girls. Emma is now 16 and has gone to the same school since kindergarten and has just started her junior year. Last week, during a family dinner at my house, my daughter announced to the family, myself, Emma, Sarah, my 3 sons, my Dills, my other grandkids, that she was so grateful for the help I've given her with Emma, but since she was doing so well, it was time to take her back. Emma would be going to live with her full time. She'd be enrolling her in the private school, and it was all possible thanks to me. I asked if I could speak to her privately, and she said no. So at the table, I told her that that wasn't a good idea, and that it wasn't going to be good for Emma. She loved her whole life with me. Taking her away would be damaging. Sarah said that I had no right to tell her what's best for Emma since she's her mother. I told her that being a mother doesn't mean she raised her daughter, and that I know what's best for Emma. Sarah left in a huff and told me she'd come back to discuss the details, but then called me later, yelling at me for undermining her parenting, saying I had no right to say that, and that I was stepping on her toes. After my daughter left, my sons told me that while I was in the right, I should have been more sensitive to Sarah. I really don't think she deserved any more sensitivity. Sarah chose a career over raising her daughter. Nobody pushed her to keep a baby, and nobody pushed her to pursue her career. And even when school and work permitted, she continued to put very little effort into Emma. My daughter never actually tried to bond with Emma as a parent should. She never took an interest in her life beyond her allergies and soccer schedule. They don't talk despite Emma spending years trying to connect with her. She cannot answer any basic questions about Emma and treats her like a small child, rather than the young adult she is. I did all of the child rearing. I raised her as my own baby. She grew up in my home just like my own children did years before her. She's had constant stability with me, and it's unfair for her mother to come in 16 years too late and decide she knows best. Decide to remove her from the home she's lived in since birth, away from the school and friends she's had since kindergarten. Remove her from the person who raised her. My daughter is extremely mad at me and is accusing me of turning her daughter against her because Emma refuses to go with her. AITA? For some background, Sarah was never an addict or anything. She was just very career-driven. I never held anything over her head, forced her to move out or in, and I always stepped back when she wanted to be more involved. I've never spoken badly about Sarah to Emma, but Emma has always been upset about the fact that Sarah has always made so little of an effort to be a part of her life. Her father is not in the picture, and my husband has passed on. Posting here because I need advice from people separate from the situation. This is my first time on Reddit. I apologize for any mistakes. Edit to add, Emma does not want to go with Sarah. She has expressed to me and both her private and family therapist that she doesn't consider Sarah a mother and doesn't want to have that kind of relationship with her anymore. Emma has struggled for years, not understanding why her mom doesn't want her and why her cousins don't have the same thing. She has a very tense relationship with her mother, and despite Sarah's recent attempts, she very rarely spends time with her mother willingly. Edit 2. There was never any legal work done regarding Emma. My daughter doesn't pay child support, and there are no court orders as far as who has her when. It's always been when it was convenient for my daughter. Also, the reason Emma's feelings weren't brought up till the edit is that if she had wanted to go with her mom, there wouldn't be a reason for me to post. She'd have just gone with her mom. OP is not an AH for showing the mirror to her daughter Sarah, who left her daughter just after birth with OP, and is now claiming her daughter back. If we exclude legality, it is best for Emma to stay with her grandmother instead of her mother, and if she moves, it would affect her stability and well-being. Sarah is being a little bit of an AH here, so I would give her a 1 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets 0. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button. Share them as much as you can. And don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye, see you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.